What's going on, Warplan Insiders? Are you ready for the money mission? I'm ready for the money mission. Hey, I got something pretty funny to kick this off that makes a really powerful point. But before I even play this silly video, first I want to ask you a question. Did you know? You probably didn't, but maybe you did. Did you know that Billy the big mouth bass, which is shown right here on the screen, okay, Billy, made the guy that started it $100 million the first year that he put it for sale? That's insane. And then to make things even crazier, remember the Snuggie? These are both different weird cult classic products. And I was doing research on like the Snuggie and Billy Big Mouth Bass and Slap Chop and ShamWow and OxyClean and all these infomercial things to make a point for the money mission. But the Snuggie was estimated to do $400 million a year in revenue when it was like really popular at its peak. And why do I tell you that? I tell you that for two reasons. Number one is in an effort to continuously reframe your brain around how big the opportunity is for you and your business. If a guy can make a talking fish and do $100 million his first year, you can make $1 million doing your service. I promise you can. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. And then the Snuggie, these are both hilarious things. But I want to kick things off with a video and then get into the money mission. Watch this.
Boy.
Okay, you're like, what did I sign up for? What is Josh talking about? I'm actually talking about offers. And so today's money mission is titled The Law of Comparison. You know, what's really funny about infomercials that small business owners do a really bad job at is comparison, right? Helping people understand the cost of either doing nothing or the cost of hiring your competitor or what other alternative they have or the cost of waiting. And this is like over exaggerated in these cheesy infomercials. You know, I was trying to find the one where there's like this pasta infomercial thing, some sort of device that helps you cook pasta. And I remember the lady's like spilling pizza sauce or like pasta sauce everywhere and pot spaghetti's flying all over her kitchen. And it's like, are you tired of this? Right. And it's, it's a hugely exaggerated pain point, but there's a principle in it. There's a nugget in it. There is gold in it. So think about this. When you present your offers to your customers, In their brain, they're comparing it to stuff without even realizing they're comparing it to stuff. They're comparing it to the last guy or the bad experience they had before. They're comparing it to doing it themselves. They're comparing it to doing nothing. They're comparing it to doing it right now versus doing it later because they get anxiety. They don't want to deal with it. And so last week when we talked about foot in the door offers, the real core purpose of a foot in the door offer is to set the table for you to be able to sell your core offer. And now we're at the point where we're going to talk about your core offer. And we're going to talk about how you should put the right ingredients in it to make it as compelling as possible. But we also need to talk about how to juxtaposition that against other alternatives. And I'll explain what that means. So if you think about a program like Conquer, for example, right? So I was the founder of Automate, Grow, Sell at Conquer. And I'm not involved in that now, but when we sell programs like Conquer or we sell programs even like Warplan Insiders, one of the most important things that I try to do is help the buyer understand the cost of doing nothing or the cost of doing an alternative or the cost of doing it themselves, right? It's really, really important for the price anchoring and all the psychology, because if you're gonna sell something to someone, they have to understand what the upside is and why they need to do it now. So the true cost, here's my question to you. What is the true cost? And let's just say you're a maid service or a lawn mowing company or a landscape company or junk removal company. It doesn't really matter, but what's the cost of doing nothing? So if it's junk removal, how do we, in the spirit of infomercial cheesiness, do some things that help them understand what it means if their garage stays full of junk forever? Or I know Krista Nichols is in this group, and she sells a copywriting course or a workshop or a certification program. It's like a $10,000 thing. How do you compare something like that? Well, it's not hard. You just have to think asymmetrically, because if someone wants to make extra money and learn how to be a copywriter, and they're trying to figure out, should I give this stranger on the internet $10,000, and they're filled with anxiety and fear, how do we downshift that fear and get them excited to not only give $10,000, but to say, thank you, and give the $10,000. You do that by comparing it to alternatives. So in that one example, the cost of doing nothing means your life stays the same. It means what you've always had is what you're going to continue to get. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So using stories is one way to do it. You can use stories of fear or people that wish they would have taken action and then had regret. You can use fear if you're the junk removal company about pests and rodents and things that can kind of get in the junk and the messy garage that you need to clean out. You've just been putting it off. You can tell stories about people putting things off until it was too late, things like that. What you're doing is you're using the law of comparison so that they're not just comparing your $1,000 price to saying yes or no. They're comparing your $1,000 price to an infested garage full of rats, basically, right? And this is kind of the artsy part of this. I'm going to give you the science part too, and some of the ingredients that need to go in all of your offers. But we need to do the art part. So I'm really curious this week inside of our members group to see what you guys come up with, because it makes a big deal of difference. So I'll give you one example from my cleaning company years ago when we sold the General Motors contract, which was like $318,000 a year. That company I sold 7 years ago, and they still have that account as far as I know. So it's done millions in sales. One job, right? But the way that we pitched it to all these executives at General Motors was by comparing the cost of us cleaning, because it hadn't been cleaned in over a decade, all these buildings at this one facility called the Warren Tech Center. What we did is I figured out the cost of replacement for the windows. The windows were really, really bad, and we cleaned windows at the time. And so it was over $10 million to replace the glass. That was like a conservative estimate. There's a lot of glass, tens of thousands of panes of glass. And that one thing moved the needle for us when I made that presentation, because now they're not saying, should we budget $300,000 or not? They're saying, should we spend $300,000 or spend $10 million, right? That's what you're doing. If you're selling weight loss to obese people, you're not comparing your weight loss to the other weight loss. You're comparing your weight loss to death or to sickness or to not being able to play with your kids, things like that. And like I said, you're going to get red-pilled becoming an insider because you can't see the world the same way. You can start to see this happening everywhere around you. There's juxtapositioning happening. And that's a fancy word. Juxtaposition just means you take something and then you create a second thing to create contrast between the two things, right? If you went to a movie theater and the only thing you could buy was a large popcorn and a large soft drink, their sales would be a lot lower, but they have packages to juxtaposition the packages. And what that means is they don't really care if you buy a small, a medium, or a large, because they know that on average you're going to buy the large because of the way that they price or juxtaposition what you get and the way they use prices to push you in a certain direction. And I want you to think about that for your business. So if you're selling a $1,000 house wash package, what are they comparing that to? They can compare it to doing nothing and having things get worse. They could compare it to the other packages you have. So if your core offer is house washing, maybe you have more than one version of it for sale. And the purpose of creating a decoy offer is to make the other offer look clearly like the best choice. And there's lots of ways to do that. We've already talked about some of that inside Recession Marketing and in the Insiders. I'll probably get more questions this week with this particular assignment than other ones because there's a little more art involved. But I want you to start asking yourself, what are they comparing my thing to, right? The only thing, if you have like a maid service or just a simple transactional, almost commoditized service, you have to de-commoditize it. What that means is you have to make it clearly not part of the mix of all the other companies that do the same thing you do. So if they have 5 maid services and they all kind of do the same thing, what language can we use and what elements in our offer can we put so that we become the only company that does a certain thing, or we become the most expensive, or we're the best bargain? You know, there's not really a competitive advantage of being kind of in the middle. We want to either be perceived as the most expensive, but because they called right now, they get this price, which is in the neighborhood of everybody else, but we should be here, right? And we've established that value through social proof and comparison and storytelling and all this stuff. And then let's talk about decoy offers for just a second. So your decoy offer, if you're going to have like 3 packages, good, better, best, I'll just sketch this out real quick. The way that you price each of these will dictate which one looks the most attractive. The law of comparison is a real thing. I think I told this story, like if you go to a party, if you're a man and you want to meet a pretty girl and you're a single man and you go to a party by yourself, your chances are worse than if you take someone who's clearly less attractive than you with you. Because when you're talking to the pretty girl and someone less attractive than you is standing right next to you, it enhances how you are perceived, which is so weird and it seems irrational, but it's absolutely true. And we got to do this with our sales. Sometimes on accident, we give people yes or no options instead of giving people either or options. I'll give you one more example. They did a study with DVD players and they had 2 DVD players. One was priced $79. One was priced $89. They were essentially the same thing. Okay. But with the first group of 100 people, they explained the features of this one and said it was $79. Then they explained the features of this one and said it was $89. And the question was this: do you want to buy this DVD player? Oh, I'm sorry. I messed it up. I messed up the story. The first group of 100 people, they only showed one DVD player too. They said to them, and they listed out all the features and said, would you buy this, yes or no? And I forget the percentage, but it was like 42% said, yes, I would buy it. Then with the second group of 100 people, they did the same thing, but they showed them 2 of them, right? Almost the same price, really similar features. But the question was, would you buy one of these 2? And it was like 78% yes. And the reason why is because humans are irrational. It's because humans are totally weird and we're in our own heads. And when we're presented with an either or option, we're more likely to make a choice. When we're presented with a binary yes or no option, we're more likely to pass. So let me just recap this real quick. If you're talking about the true cost of alternatives, you can tell stories about contractors that have, robbed people blind, for example. You can plant seeds of doubt in their head when you're presenting your packages that helps them get a little nervous about going with the cheapest guy, right? That would be an example of using a story to smash the alternatives. And then the cost of doing nothing, well, it depends. So if you're a maid service, the cost of doing nothing might be just more anxiety, right? Kicking the can down the road. Maybe that's what it is. Or the cost of doing nothing is judgment from your mother-in-law. Or the cost of doing nothing is having your house full of allergies and dust and your kids get sick. It could be those things. And you don't have to be overt like these cheesy infomercial people. You don't have to be like in their face, your kids are going to get sick if you don't hire us. But we, as part of our presentation, we say things like that. You say, in North Texas, we don't have normal dust in North Texas. Can I get an amen? Allergies here are crazy. A lot of our customers, one of the things they notice after we start off with our deep clean is just how much more fresh the air in their house feels. I don't know if that's particularly important to you, but wow. I mean, it is for me because my kids are always, suffering from allergies or something. You're not making an explicit claim. You're just kind of rolling into the conversation a thing. But what it does is it helps the person compare what you're offering them. You might not even got to the price yet, to the cost of not doing the thing that you're going to compare with them. And then the cost of waiting, right? If things get worse, if it'll cost more expensive, or if it'll be more expensive later. For example, if you're selling early in the spring and you have early bird specials and you have this great deal on your core offer, but people want to wait to the summer to hire you, we give them stories and examples and logical justifications as to why waiting will cost more. Not just in a sleazy, slimy sales tactic way, but in a real way. Hey, the best part is because we're talking right now, we have so much more flexibility on scheduling. And typically what happens, Mrs. Jones, is when we get to about May 1st, the rules of the game change. And everybody that put it off the last minute calls us. It's stressful on us. I mean, we handle it, but it's a little more chaotic. Our prices go up because of supply and demand pricing. And, we have to turn people down, or at a minimum, they have to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks to even get on the schedule. So we don't have to worry about that because we're talking right now. So anyway, let's go over the 3 options that seem to be best for you. Boom, boom, boom. But I planted that seed, juxtaposition. I'm comparing what I'm about to present them to waiting. Because if I know that the objection is going to be, oh, this sounds great, I'll give you a call back in May. If I know that that's a possibility, I'm going to say it in my sales process before I present my offer, before they even say it out of their mouth. How cool is that? Okay. And then your decoy offer, if you don't have one, you're going to create one. The easiest way to do it is just to make something way more expensive than you currently have for sale. Create it, right? If you have a $1,000 max package, we're going to create a $3,000 max package. Even if the whole point of it is just to remind people, I don't think you need this one. I think this one's the best bet for you. Another rule of thumb when presenting pricing is to start with the most expensive thing and then work your way down. That's a good rule of thumb because it anchors people, gives them anxiety, then they're pleasantly surprised with your core offer price. You can do this a lot of different ways. For example, I'll just use junk removal again. I don't know, that one's in my brain right now. But if it costs $1,000 to haul junk away, you could tell a story about how you were just in the neighborhood around the corner and you did a $4,000 junk removal for a guy, really great guy. He had a Chihuahua dog. We have a Chihuahua dog. It's really interesting. So anyway, let's take a look at your garage, Mr. Jones. Now I've anchored them. And they're like, oh God, I can't. That's insane. And then when I give them the $1,000 price, it hits different. It hits totally different because they have comparative things happening in their head, which is critically important. When it comes to like the Conquer program, one of the things I would use a lot is, Conquer or Warplane Insiders. It's not going to make you successful. You're already a person that is going to be successful. What we do is we help you get there faster. So you don't have to do it, but would you rather it take, 60 months to hit $1 million in revenue, or would you rather it take 18 months? Everybody's different. It's a decision you're going to have to make. But what we do is we accelerate things for you and we collapse time for you. So that created a comparison that they weren't even thinking. I put it in their head. Sign up for this and go faster, or wait and pay a higher price, right? Okay, let's talk about the offer cookbook. Now, you don't have to have every single one of these things, but it's a good checklist to get as many as you can. And then we'll talk about it inside of our group this week, okay? And on our calls. So the first thing is a unique and memorable name. So that's the name of your offer. So a lot of people use good, better, best, or gold, silver, and platinum. That's okay. It's okay if you want to do that. But if you do have some creative juices and you can call it something really clever to you that's unique to your brand, or a phrase that's alliterated and it just flows and sounds cool, that's helpful. That's one ingredient that's helpful, because when they get multiple quotes from other people or they're looking at other alternatives, it all kind of feels the same. And if yours is the Super Saver Platinum flux capacitor inverter package, that can help you stand out. Now, if you get too weird with it, it can work against you, but that's something to think about. So I'll check that. The next thing is to make sure you create your decoy offer, which we just talked about. It needs to exist, and it shouldn't just exist in one place. It should exist on your website. It should exist on literature and any kind of brochures you hand out. It should exist on your estimate sheets, or if you're emailing people stuff. It needs to be everywhere, and people need to know that it's for sale. You know, Krista, like I said, has a $10,000 copywriter course thing. I would juxtapose that against paying her $50,000 for her other program, right? So you can work with her one-on-one for $50,000, or you can pay $10,000 and work with her in a small group and get certified. And it's basically the same thing, but the price is a huge gap between the two. It's really, really important. You know, I charge a lot of money for individual high-ticket consulting, but it also helps enhance programs like this, right? Because it's a bargain to get this much access and for me to help and things like that, compared to if you hired me directly. And that's not fake, it's really real, but it's important that I talk about it because it creates the comparison in people's heads. So create a decoy offer, and then make sure that you have a stack. So when I say stack of components, what does that mean? Most service businesses don't even have an offer. They have a service. So they say lawn mowing, this price. That's not what we're doing here, because we're going to actually make money. Okay, you're going to have an offer, and an offer is a stack of different items that make the offer up. A service is a yes or no, we do this for this. An offer is a stack of things. So if it's lawn mowing, how do we turn it into a stack? Well, you break down the components of what you do. So if lawn mowing for you means that you come once a week and you mow their lawn, and then you blow off their driveway, and then you trim the edges of around their trees, there's like 3 or 4 things. The problem is the service business owners do a terrible job of articulating what's in the stack. So I would call it the luxury lawn bundle. And I would say the first thing is you get dedicated weekly guaranteed service. So I would like write that. Even though it's like a given that that's what they get, it becomes a thing now, and it goes in your stack. Next thing you get is you know, the lawn mowed, except I might word that in a way that makes it better, because excuse me, maybe the machines you use are different or better, or the types of blades you use are different. You could call it the vortex blade, right? Or the I don't know, the vortex blade mowing service, right? So now it's not just a mowing service, it's our own proprietized version of a mowing service, which is better than everybody else's mowing service. The third thing you get in the luxury lawn bundle is you get edging. But how do we say edging in a sexy way? You know, a lot of window cleaning companies, they clean screens. It's like a normal thing. But we called it hand-washed screen cleaning. And not that that's the sexiest thing ever, but it automatically is better than just screen cleaning. Screen cleaning? Yeah, we have the hand-scrubbed screen cleaning. That's what it was called, hand-scrubbed screen cleaning. So you take each component of what you get and you write it out so they can see it, and that is what makes a stack. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. And then, of course, what are you doing in regards to risk reversal? Risk reversal is a critically important part of any offer. What happens if I don't like it? What happens if it isn't what I thought? What if I'm disappointed? How do I create a feedback loop with your company? I don't want to call and complain, right? So if you can add elements to your offer where you have the quality control protocol, right? Which means that they get a link texted to them every Friday where they can, you know, quickly say if they're loving it or if they have a critique or enhancement that they want to request or something, right? You could put that in there. Or do you have some crazy risk reversal offer, right? Like a 10 times your money back thing. And you can have criteria with it, but even for the sake of just having fun, think of crazy things that if you did offer it would move the needle for you. Then after that, figure out, okay, do I really want to offer that? How can I trim it down? How can I protect myself? But don't be so scared of making bold claims that you can't even let yourself be creative. Be creative. Take away the risk. Make it insane. Make them feel stupid for saying no. They got to feel dumb for not hiring you. And then, of course, basic things like social proof. You guys all have reviews. That's social proof. You have testimonials. Hopefully you have some video testimonials. But how are we guaranteeing that our prospects are seeing these as part of our process? Are they getting an email right before your estimate appointment with a link to 5 different video testimonials from people in your same zip code. They should be. Do you have any literature printed out with the picture of the house, the picture of the homeowner, and then a text caption of what they said? You should have it just to have it, because social proof is a really, really important element. And then trust badges is the next one. Trust badges is not the same as social proof. It's similar, but it's different. Trust badges are what establish your authority. So if you're a member of a professional organization, you should have like the logo or the badge for that on your stuff, right? If you won an award from your Chamber of Commerce, you should have a badge for that, right? If you spoke at an industry event, you should put something on there about how the founder is an industry expert who speaks at events. That'd be a form of a trust badge. If you can think of anything like that, we want it to be in your literature, in your emails. It should be talked about when you're talking to the prospects. And then here's the next one. Is your offer, or is what you're selling your customers, are you the only person that sells that thing? This is kind of a litmus test to see if your offer is following the instructions in this. You don't want to be another company doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You want to be the only company offering the luxury lawn bundle with the Vortex blades. Are you the only? And it doesn't have to be the only, like, yeah, you're a lawnmower, right? But you're the only one with the luxury lawn bundle, or you're the only company in all of Southeast Minnesota with the property protection guarantee and the 3-day triple your money back guarantee. And you're the only company with the background checked, blah, 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 through this certain process thing, or the whatever methodology or protocol, or the customer feedback super communicator system. What one thing or suite of things could you say that you're the only company that offers? And it's not hard to do this. It really, you can do it just by naming your components something creative by itself. So instead of saying lawn mowing, $40, yes or no, now we have the luxury lawn bundle with these 4 components, which makes the stack. And these components are proprietized. Now it's the Vortex blade whatever, and the feedback loop protocol. We're the only company with the feedback loop protocol, the Vortex blade service, which gives you this, okay? And this leads to visual aids. If you are a service provider, this doesn't apply to everybody, right? Really, but for a lot of service companies, it's a huge deal. We don't have enough visual aids. We don't help people understand or paint the picture in their brain of what they're going to get as soon as they say yes. As soon as they say yes, boom, you have 6-pack abs, right? I'm buying the 7-minute abs course, and boom, I bought it. Now I have abs. They need to feel like that. So if you have before and after of lawns, before and after of clean houses, right? Before and after of like on top of the refrigerator where there's all this dust, and you just talked about the allergy thing, and then you show it after, and it's like so satisfying to see it. We need to have these things either on our on our website, in our literature. It needs to be on the iPad for your sales technician, so we can explain and show them what they're going to get. We need to show them what they're going to get. How can you show it? How can you show it? How can you show it? Can you use graphs or charts or statistics? There's lots of ways to do it. And then another last but not least one is time delay. And what that means, I'll give you a story about Brian Hegarty. So Brian Hegarty started learning from me years ago, and he's older than I am. I think he's about 60, and he was frustrated with me at first because he's like, "Who is this young guy? He doesn't know anything." And he had a company that was doing $300,000-400,000 kind of for like 20 years, a pressure cleaning company. I think they'll do like $3 million this year. Maybe something like that. They're doing $300,000-400,000 a month. They're murdering it. But one of his biggest competitive advantages is just the fact that he's figured out a way with his schedule and the way that he hires, okay, to be able to sell and then do the job within 2 or 3 days of the appointment. And all of his pressure cleaning competition is scheduling people 2 and 3 and 4 weeks out. And so he is way more expensive than all these other people, but he's closing like 80% of all the jobs at a higher price because he understands all this stuff. I worked with him for a long time, but also a big reason is because there's no time delay. There's no time delay. They can get instant gratification. One of the easiest ways to close people is to do it quick. And it depends on what kind of service you have, but ask yourself this: if they could get started or get the result or be on the path to get the result really fast, would it be easier or harder for people to buy, right? The answer is easier. So again, doesn't apply to everybody. You don't need every ingredient on here, but the more you put in, the stronger your offer will be. And we're here for you. So we talked about foot in the door offers. Now we're talking about your core offer, but really the law of comparison, right? And how to juxtapose it to the cost of doing nothing and all these things. I'm super curious your feedback. This one, it's a little bit abstract, but very, very powerful stuff. Talk to you soon. God bless.